Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. In this video I'm gonna bring you something a little bit different. I would say one of the most common questions I got on the channel is what scope I use. And that scope that I have is a very expensive scope. The reason is it's a Japanese scope, Japanese glass. Most of my videos are hunting videos, so I decided to expand in a very good scope, and I invested in that scope for the videos that I record. But every time someone tells me like, what scope do you recommend? Well, I have a really hard time justifying like spending like $1,300 on that scope. So that brings us to this Arken Optics SH4 Gen2. It's a 6-24 by 50 in a first focal plane. I have this scope for only probably a few weeks. And one thing that I want to mention before we jump into the video is it's really hard for me sometimes to decide to do a scope review. Reason is I'm not an expert on scopes, but I've been using a very good scope for a long time, so I know when something is suboptimal. And I have to say, this scope has impressed me. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the review. All right, let's start talking about the scope, about the turrets. I think this is by far the best turret that I've ever seen on any scope. They are big and the clicks are outstanding. The feedback that you get from this scope is amazing. So you see there are no movement. If you move, it's because you are clicking. Zero play here, very solid. This is by far the best turret that I've ever seen. One thing to notice is that the scope doesn't have 10 revolutions, it's just 8 revolutions. But you do have 10 clicks per mil. So it's 1/10 of a mil. This is a mil scope. But yeah, I just wanted to show you the first thing I want to show you is these clicks. By far, my best feature on this scope is the turret. There are a few things that I want to keep talking about these turrets. The first thing is they have 3 screws that you just remove with the Allen wrench, and then you can rotate freely and re-zero the scope. I just want to show you really quick how we reset the zero on the turret. So they have 3 screws that you just lose those screws, and then you can basically put the zero whenever you want, right? Typically it will be here. And the typical procedure will be then put the zero and then tighten the screws. What is the problem with this? It's possible that you will move and you will lose the exact position there. So one trick that I like to do with this scope is I will use the zero stop as a help. So what I do is I remove, and then this is the screw for the zero stop, and I will just set the screw. So just put it in and test to see if the zero stop is set. No. So turn it more, and there we have the zero stop. So now with the zero stop we can make sure that we are not going to move, because we can use this pressure here, a little bit of pressure here, to tighten the screws. So this is what I will do with this hand. I'm just making pressure on my zero stop, and then I will do a hand tight. You don't need to super tight this screw here. Just give it a little bit. And then that's it. So there you go. You have zero stop, and then don't forget to just lock that zero stop with this screw. Also, don't super tight. So one thing that we are here just to notice is how the clicks align perfect on this scope. These turrets are amazing. When you click, everything lines super nice. So yes, this is how you use the zero stop and how you re-zero this turret. So the scope comes with the 3 inches sunshade that I use all the time. So as you can see, it's not a big scope, but when you put the shade, it looks a little bit long. But I love this because it gives me very nice protection when I'm filming. So I always use these sunshades that I love. The magnification ring is also very smooth. There is no play. You feel a lot of quality on this. It has some resistance, but it moves really smooth. The scope has a 34mm tube, and it doesn't come with rings. So if you order this scope, I would say order the 34mm rings because you will need it. I just really wanted to make a quick pause and talk a little bit about the 34mm tube because it's a very common misconception that you will get more light with the 34mm tube, and that's not the case. The 34mm tube will give you more movement. This scope has 32 mil range of adjustment. What that means to you is if you don't have a 20 MOA Picatinny rail, now having a 34mm tube really helps. So not having a 20 MOA Picatinny rail, I will say it's not a big deal because the scope compensates. You have a lot of clicks just because the tube. There is no more light. So when you get more light in a scope, the bigger the diameter in the scope. This one is a 50. So if you have a 56, that should get more light because you get a bigger glass in front. Right, that's everything that I want to say about 34mm tube. So the Parallax is a 24-yard Parallax, and it moves also really nice. One thing that I have, let's talk about the illumination. So this scope has illumination. The illumination is a little bit stiff, but maybe that's fine. You are not moving this all the time. But there is something I really don't like, which is this illumination. It's not gonna work in daylight, and sometimes you do need illumination in daylight. So I've tried this scope during daylight, even getting dark, and you see that it have 10 settings. So here you can see, and it's setting and off position all the time, right? You get 8 off. Even at the 10 power, you're not gonna be able to see that reticle illuminated during daylight. Only when it's really dark is when you will be able to see that illumination. To me, there is, I don't know, why giving me 10 options when basically on-off position will be enough. So it's something that I really dislike, which is the illumination on this reticle. It is illuminated, but not showing up. No, if you can see the illumination there. This is what I mean, the illumination really doesn't show much. This is something dark. Let me go to 16. I think it's off. Illumination. This is what I mean with the illumination. It's really hard to see when the illumination is on. Put my hand on the front here. Oh, here you can see it's on, but you see what I mean? It have to be really dark so you pick it up. And with those specs out of the way, let's jump into some videos that I recorded with my scope cam so I can show you how the parallax work. I noticed the parallax on this scope is a little bit slow. I don't know, I have the feeling that the focusing goes a little bit slow. Like if I have to turn a lot here so I can get the scope in focus. So this is my King 4 charcoal bag at 10 yards. So this is an idea what you can get. Let me reduce the magnification just a little bit so you can get an idea what you can get at 10 yards. Even when probably you can get a clear image at minimum magnification, there is no parallax. I'm moving my head and the parallax is jumping a lot at this distance. So here I'm turning the wheel all the way from 25 to infinity, and that's what you will get. You see not a lot of movement. Right, let's go back to 20 yards now. Right, target is now at 20 yards. I'm at 18 magnification. Let me start moving the parallax. Now you can see a little bit more shifting on the focus, but here is the minimum you can get at 20 yards. Let me move the magnification. This is 12, 10, this is 7, and this is 6. Again, there is no parallax here. I'm moving my head and the crosshair is moving with my head, so no parallax at 20 yards. This is 18, 20, and 24. All right, let's move it to 30 yards now. Now the bag is at 30 yards, and now things are gonna be a little bit different because this scope has a 25-yard parallax. Here we have the parallax at 25. So let's move it to 30. But here at 30, I see the image go out of focus. So let me put it back on 25. Yes, at least on the camera, the image goes out of focus when I'm dialing at 30. Let's do that again. 30, see, going out of focus. 25. But one thing that we start noticing is how clear we can see now at 30 yards. So let's move the magnification to 20 and then to 24. This is maximum magnification, 24, 18, 14. So here we start losing the crosshair at 14, but 16, the crosshair is pretty good. 18, I think is optimum. So let's keep going. So 12, here the focus, yeah, starts suffering a little bit at 12, 10. So you see the letters on the back are now out of focus. This is all the way back to 6. I think I really like this scope and 18 magnification. All right, let's move the bag all the way to the fence and see what distance that. I think it's around 40 yards. Let's try that. Yeah, here the target is at 40 yards. We're starting in 18 magnification. As you notice, I always start in 18 magnification because I think that's the best magnification I get image. If I go to 20 or 24, sometimes I see a dark shade on the bottom of the camera. And this is another thing that this scope is not clear all the way to 24. I notice a maximum that I can get is 18. So if I go to 20, it's not bad, but I notice I'm losing clarity. And if I go all the way to 24, I don't know if you can tell, but I see something on the bottom. So there is a little bit of mirage. You can see the letters are like kind of moving. But here I'm in 25 parallax. Let's move the parallax here a little bit. You see the image got even better. I'm moving the parallax. So I started here, check the King 4 letter. So they are a little bit out of focus. I'm moving it and I'm getting maximum focus at this parallax. So parallax is showing 30 here. Actually I'm at 40. Let me see if I take it to 40 what happened. It get out of focus. So it's kind of, the parallax is showing me like 10 yards, at least on the camera. Let me check on the eye. I think on the eye is the same. I get better focus at 40 yards when I put the parallax at 30. Right, let's move the magnification down so you can see at 40 yards. This is 14, 10, 8, 7. Oh well, 24. I really love this reticle. All right, let's see if we can do longer than this. Let me see if I can move this bag outside of my house and see how far I can go with the bag. Let's do that. So here we see the bag at 75 yards. Yes, my parallax is 25. So let's keep aiming. So here, showing 100 yards on the rifle, but I think here you can see clear the back. You see it's at 18 magnification. Let's go to 20 and 24 to see if we can show a longer range, what I mean with the black shade. So typically I would be here. This is a very good magnification. Really love the reticle once again. Now let's start backing up. This is 12, 8, and 6. Yeah, this is all the way to 75 yards. I think this is a great scope. I really love the clarity I get. Let's move the parallax. This is 25, 60, still not in focus. I think there, it's actually showing pretty close to 75. All right, that's it. This is 75 yards, my King's 4 charcoal bag. All right, this is my attempt to do a tracking test. It's gonna be really hard because the rifle moves. I'm trying just not to touch anything, but it moves sideways. Up and down is good, but it moves sideways. All right, let's do kind of a box test. Let's do 4 down, 4 left, 4 up, 4 right. I think it is tracking perfect. This scope really tracks perfect. I'm not pushing this too much. I'm only at 40 yards. I can see that the marks on the reticle are gonna be perfect at 50 yards. So yeah, I'm very happy with that too. And as I say, this reticle is awesome. All right, that's a quick and dirty tracking test, but I really wanted you to see at least how this scope moves. Hopefully I can improve this for my next video. So there's one thing that I haven't mentioned yet, and it's the price of the scope. So this scope retails for $399. That's right, $400. It's also worth mentioning that this is a Chinese scope, so it's made in China. But don't be fooled, because I have all the Chinese scope, but I haven't yet found the quality I see on this scope. Probably one day I need to buy one of the Element scope just to see, because those are made in China also, except the Nexus scope is made in Japan. But I think for $400, the only thing that I really miss, and I wish Arken at some point do is the 10-yard parallax. On the element scope, you will have a 10-yard parallax. On my next video review for the next scope that I have, we will compare and we will see how awesome is having a 10-yard parallax. At least for me, it's a big deal. So having a 10-yard parallax is the only thing that I wish this scope have, and it will be perfect. So let's wrap up, in my opinion, good and not so good things that we get on the scope. So on the good side, you get a 34mm tube, so you get a lot of adjustment for dialing. You get an awesome turret. Clicks are really nice. The overall scope feels solid, so you don't feel like it's a cheap scope. The glass is acceptable. It's not a Japanese glass, but as you can see on the video, it's pretty clear. The reticle, I would say, is one of the best reticles that I have seen. It's a genius idea, not making it thin and not making it thick, so they combine thin and a thick reticle at the same time. That's really nice. The magnification range is good, 6 to 24. You can use 20, 24. I'm personally using until 18, but you get a good magnification range. Tracking is also something very important. The scope tracks really well. So let's talk now about the not so good things. Illumination. It's not so good illumination. Doesn't work in daylight. The next thing is the turret are not lockable. You cannot lock it, but not a big deal because they are pretty responsive, and I don't think how you will by mistake just turn this beast of a turret. And the other downside to me is the parallax. It's not a 10-yard parallax. For an air gunner, I think 10-yard parallax is a big deal. If this scope had 10-yard parallax, I would think it will be perfect for what I'm using. So my opinion is that as an overall package, so what you get for this scope for $400 is pretty hard to beat. I don't know anything in the market at this price range that can even come close to what this scope feels and what this scope can do. All right, everybody, that's everything that I have for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It was my first scope review, but I have 2 more scopes that I want to review. Hopefully you will enjoy those 2. Stay tuned for the next video, and if you haven't, please consider subscribing. This is by far the best way that you can support the channel. See you on the next, and as always, be safe. Bye.
If I'm the bad one, take a look at yourself in the mirror. If I'm the worst one, ask anybody